If Dave was American, he would be a top 5 rapper. Yeah, that's right, I said it. As a matter of fact, he might even be in your top 3. Shoot, move over, big 3. That includes the Kendricks, the J. Coles, and the Drakes. And shoot, if I'm talking to some of y'all, there's probably a spot open at this point in time in 2025. But wait, before you call me crazy, before you say I don't know what I'm talking about, and before some of you fellow Americans say I need to be detained and arrested for treason activities, stick around for the rest of this video because I promise I'm gonna make my case about Dave in a few. By the way, guys, my name is Uche and I make videos like this every single week, or at least I'm planning to. So if you want to see me grow, you want to see more videos like this, hit that like button. If you want to see me elevate and hit 1K subscribers, hit that subscribe button for your boy. Oh, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter at my handle UCHAYVA. All right, now let's get into this. Okay. Let's talk about David Omoregi out of Brixton, London, United Kingdom, better known as Dave, aka Santan Dave. Yo, what a name. It's kind of close to Satan, which is really strange, but for those of you guys who are not familiar, actually that nickname comes from, go figure, a bank called Santander Bank, which is a bank out there in the UK. But Dave actually got that nickname from a Snapchat joke back in the day where he put Santan next to the logo of the UK bank, which is, again, really strange, but for those of you guys who are familiar, that's where that comes from. But I think Dave has all of the qualities of being a GOAT level rapper, right? He has the world building thematic approach mixed with making cinematic music, mixed with flows on flows, mixed with making you think and creating thought-provoking music. And so I wonder sometimes why his name never really gets mentioned. And I've boiled this down to one key factor. Spoiler alert, he has an accent. Somehow, some way, although he speaks clear English, and if you're an American, you know what time it is. A lot of UK artists have tried to break in the US and they haven't really been able to be successful. And Dave, to me, while he is extremely successful world round, somehow, some way has not really broken into the United States. And that's why, as we get into his discography, I completely understand how there's a lot of folks out there who are gonna listen to some of these album names and song titles and gonna be like, I have no idea of any of these songs. Like, this is not my cup of tea. No pun intended with the tea, but because I know UK and them drink tea, but this ain't about the tea, all right? For the real ones out there, y'all are gonna be like, damn, I'm glad somebody's highlighting Dave's music finally. And so from that perspective, we gotta talk about Dave's Psychodrama album, which dropped March 8th, 2019. And it actually debuted at #1 on the UK albums charts at the time of its release. In terms of first week sales, it had 26,000 album equivalent units out there in the UK, which again wasn't a ton at the time, but it was enough for this to be a #1 album. It didn't have much shine in the US. I'm gonna highlight that throughout this video because this is a trend. Dave isn't really popping chart-wise in the US, yet he still is able to garner a lot of success and noise throughout his career. And so in this time frame, he actually was the winner of the Mercury Prize back in 2019. He also won Album of the Year at the Brit Awards back in 2020.
Everyone that comes from the place that I come from, all my people from South London, all my young kings and queens that are chasing their dreams, I am no different from you. I'm just a guy, and everything that I'm saying is a fact. You can do anything that you put your mind to.
And some popular songs on this project are Location, featuring Burna Boy. He also had a track called Disaster, which featured J Hus. And it had the critically acclaimed record called Black, which was extremely, I'd say, controversial and empowering more than anything else for folks who understand about the Black experience, whether we're talking in the UK or America, because whether you're Black, that is something that a lot of people can relate to when placed or displaced rather throughout this world. And so next he dropped We Are All Alone in This Together, which was his next album that he put out on July 23rd, 2021, which once again debuted at #1 on the UK albums charts. This one saw a real big spike in first week sales because it actually sold 74K UK first week album equivalent units, and Dave was really making noise during this time, man. I think this was actually the biggest UK hip hop album opening week since 2010 at that time. So Dave was heating up, man, really making a name for himself, and it was really dope to see, because I think for me, this was around the time where I got put on to Dave's music. It was around that 2021 time frame. And so when that dropped, I really went back, started listening to Psychodrama and all of the other stuff. But some of you guys may remember some of the popular songs on this project, which was Clash featuring Stormzy. He also had a song called In the Fire, and also Heart Attack, which once again, Dave is really known for these thought-provoking storytelling tracks, which by the way, we're going to get into in a few, because that's one of the things that sets Dave apart. But he also won Album of the Year in 2022 at the Brit Awards. So once again, you see a trend when it comes to Dave. But that leads us into his most recent project called The Boy Who Played the Harp, which released on October 24th, 2025. Once again, charted at #1 on the UK album charts, right? In terms of its debut. It also sold 74K album equivalent units in the first week. So, yo, Dave is pretty steady, man. I'm trying to get you guys to understand the type of noise Dave is making across the pond, while American artists don't really pay attention to him enough. But this album had some impactful records. #1, you got Rain Dance featuring Thames, No Weapons featuring Jim Legacy, 175 Months, My 27th Birthday, History featuring James Blake, and a slew of others. And so in terms of solo albums, those are really the ones that have been making noise. But of course, we can't not talk about the EP he dropped with Central C back in 2023, which broke the UK internet. It didn't break American internet, but it broke the UK internet. And it has one of the biggest songs in the UK called Sprinter. And actually that song just recently became the first UK rap song to hit 1 billion streams. So shout out to them brothers. But I'd say one of the most important things that makes Dave stand out the most has to be on the artist side of things. Far too often we all talk about numbers, we talk about impact, because I argue, what the hell does impact even mean in the first place? And I feel like Dave has that. It's something that you just feel, right? When people say Kendrick Lamar is impactful, it's because you feel his music and it reverberates throughout the industry. It reverberates around people's internal communities. People are referencing lyrics and so on and so forth. So I feel like I'm about to say the most controversial statement of this video, but I don't give a damn it, all right? Dave is the UK Kendrick Lamar. And that should come as no shock to those of you guys who already are familiar with his music. But for those of you who are critical and underestimate UK artists in the US and all around the world, I'm here to break it down. #1, Dave has the storytelling and the concept albums and songs down to a T. He really does it at an extremely high level. You think about what he did on Psychodrama, which was centered around being in a therapy session. You think about even this new album that he dropped, The Boy Who Played the Harp, which was a very intricate internal look at his spirituality throughout the course of a project. And then you compare that to albums that Kendrick has put out, like Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, which showed him going through a therapy session and really reflecting among himself, or To Pimp a Butterfly, which had more socially redeemable qualities. I feel like one of the main and only artists that I can compare Dave to is Kendrick. And so also, we got to talk about the lyrics and the rhyme schemes. I'm gonna tell you right now, Dave is like that. The pen is crazy. If it wasn't for his accent and people not maybe understanding some of the references that he drops on a regular basis, y'all would put more respect on his name. And what's funny is what Dave does the best is he never sacrifices his message across any type of production, right? He will be on a dance hall track or an Afrobeats track or a boom bap track or a drill record, and he's always gonna stay on topic. And that's very similar to what Kendrick Lamar does. But again, this isn't necessarily to compare him to Kendrick. What I'm here to just highlight is bro is one of the greatest artists of this generation, and I think it's high time that we start acknowledging it. Also, let's talk about the political and the social commentary. I'm gonna really juxtapose him to a Kendrick Lamar, because when you talk about artists standing for something, I feel like Dave does that at the highest level, and no other example, even though I could probably think of quite a few, would highlight that than what he did at the 2020 Brit Awards, where he performed his song Black. All right, let's talk about some of the biggest challenges for UK rap. Now, I think the way way I want to start this discussion has to be highlighting what Drake said recently, where he was on stage glazing UK artists, saying that they are the best rappers that rap has to offer globally.
When I talk about my love for London rappers, the best lyricists in the world, mark my words. Oh shit. I don't care what nobody says, nobody can out-rap London. Nobody. No disrespect to America, no disrespect to my country, but nobody can out-rap London rappers. This is the best, highest level. This is what I aspire to be.
Now, Drake is clearly tapped in with a ton of the mandem, and so that wasn't really surprising for me for Drake, who's Canadian, to say that another country is better than the US while he was in the middle of a beef damn near with the United States. I know he ain't beefing with the whole country, but I feel like it kind of became that when him and Kendrick was going back and forth. And so beyond the beef, beyond any of that, we've seen other battles continuously popping off, and I do think there's this big brother, little brother relationship that the US has with the UK. We gotta be honest, like, I'm from the US and I feel that way. I respect a lot of the UK artists, UK rappers, but a lot of the people in the US don't really take the UK rap scene seriously, which I think is a mistake, because they've had a ton of artists like Dave, of course, Giggs, Stormzy, J Hus, Kano, of course, Central C, that have come out, and those guys are dope, extremely lyrical. They do all the stuff that a lot of the United States artists do, but like, they just don't get those type of mainstream looks when it comes to America. Also, what's interesting to me is, of course, they have an accent. Of course, sometimes it's hard to understand some of the guys that are rapping over these drill beats. As somebody who listens to the music, I still have a hard time my damn self, but that's never stopped me from consuming the music and appreciating it for what it is. But I want to take you guys back, because the United States has a history of overshadowing and suppressing great art, and it's because of artists who've had accents. I'm not going to take you through the whole timeline, but I will highlight how back in 1995, Outkast won a huge award at the Source Awards, and Andre 3000 notoriously went up there on stage and said, "The South got something to say."
Minded folks, you know what I'm saying? It's like we got a demo tape and nobody want to hear it, but it's like this, the South got something to say. That's all I got to say.
And that was a direct reference to the fact that the South was largely marginalized when it came to rap. Of course, hip hop started in the East Coast, aka New York City, but there's been a really big divide where there's this elitist mentality from folks on the East saying, man, they from the South, they can't be dope, ain't no way. But then you got folks like Outkast, and even later on, folks like T.I., even folks like Lil Wayne, who've carried the mantle, and a slew of others who've carried the mantle for the South. I feel like the UK gets looked down upon, not just for the accents, but it also has to do with their beat selection, which is largely drill infused and drill based. And so what I want to talk about next is the fact that America has been reeling, and I mean that in the utmost respect, reeling for a superstar, reeling for the next generation of the rappers who are going to carry the torch. And we've had conversation among conversation in the culture, who's the next guy? After Kendrick, Drake, and Cole, who's the next big three? Well, I'm here to tell y'all that we got to start looking outwards beyond America. And this is the perfect time to usher in global artists like Dave into the fold, because again, he does everything that you would love a rapper to do at an extremely high level and more. It just now takes American fans to really get that put in front of them. And it takes artists like Drake, who I talked about before. But one thing you gotta give Drake credit for, I've said this a lot, and I know a lot of people have said this too, you gotta give Drake credit for tapping into other cultures and making American fans take heed to what they're listening to. Because even though Drake is Canadian, Drake has largely had the majority of his success in America, where he's ushered in Afro beats. Not that he created it at all, but we're talking about giving that music a shine. He did that during that 2016, 2017 era. He also has tried to hop on these drill beats and work work with the Central C's and the Daves and the Gigs and a lot of these artists. He's given shine to a lot of these rappers from overseas, and I think that's positive. It's gonna take more artists than Drake to do that for American fans to really start appreciating UK rap, and even artists like Dave for what they bring to the table. And so there's an excuse that rappers and fans have where they say that, oh, we're not listening to him because he got an accent. And I'm sitting there like, bro, he speaks English. If it wasn't for that lame excuse, Dave would easily be a top 5 rapper and potentially even way higher up on your all-time list. But what do you think? Do you think Dave is being held back from being from the UK? Do you feel like he would be a much bigger artist if he was actually American and didn't have an accent? Y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, once again, I appreciate all of y'all for tapping into every single one of my videos. Salute. Y'all are the real MVPs. And as always, my name is Uche. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.